Yeah, let me see.
Can I get a couple extras of these?
Sure.
If you have them?
Sure.
And we'll make up a nice book for you
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll give you a card.
with industry standard documentation. And as we get in contact with you, what we'll do is you can also already make some of these documents for you, see if you like them.
Yep,
That way you can go to your legal department and say, is this okay? Can we start using this?
yeah,
And, go through that process of setting it up.
okay, that'd be great.
I have a couple of these too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So as while we're waiting for everybody to start at 1, if we have any additional general questions, we can sort of take advantage of this extra time for anybody to ask anything that's more specific, either to their area, if you have a building or you had a past event that occurred and you want to share, or you have a specific question. We can do that now, or just continue just hanging out, but, in case, we got about 10 minutes that we just sort of use that towards your additional information specific to your city. If you have a question about whether, wood can be done versus a fire that's coming up, but do you have a specific question as to whether or not you can build a wood one or a steel one? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. The code is very clear on the building side of it, and what I'll do is the code says that I can build a fire escape must be made of non-combustible materials. So what that means is that a lot of people thought that meant I had to make my fire escape out of, what do you call it? I can only make my fire escape out of metal or aluminum, but it also means that you can actually make your fire escape out of 2-inch domino. So as long as all the wood that you're gonna use on the fire escape, so a pressure-treated wood is 2-inch domino, which is actually 1.5 inches, but that's what they call a 2-inch. So can somebody with a single-family house or a 2-family house put a fire escape stair, wood, build it themselves, or have a general contractor build a stair to that window or to that door? The answer is yes. Just has to meet the 100 pounds per square foot. So you're not building, the key here is when they build the wooden one, are they building it to 100 pounds per square foot rating? Because a lot of times decks and stairs are built 60 or 80 pounds, usually 60 pounds. So that means it's in some cases, when you have an existing wooden deck or staircase that is really a fire escape by the time you get to it, it did become the second means of egress out. Sometimes you have to beef that baby up. So the stringers now get doubled up stringers. And sometimes you get to the decking, it's 3/4 decking. So you just have to double up the 3/4 decking. There's your 1.5 inches.
This is a commercial application to make a difference.
Again, what I've seen nationwide is it must be non-combustible or fire rated, and that's a 2-inch nominal.
Okay.
So the answer is yes. But don't forget, the wood lasts 50 to 25 years on average. Iron lasts 50 to 75 years on average. Yes.
I know you said you're gonna show a thing of this later in the class, but, I guess the question, or what I'm trying to visualize is, how do you, load test a single stair runner with that amount of weight without, you know what I'm saying? If you're doing it with sand or water, how do you get that much weight on that one little?
Yeah, we'll show you. I actually have a load test that I recorded, several, and one of them was that I took a residential piece of property. It was actually owned by Harvard University, and we purposely, with their knowledge, I told them, hey, I'm gonna leave some original hardware behind, because I wanna do a load test that I'm not gonna charge you for, but I wanna document a load test in Cambridge. So I did. And it took 7 guys from 7 in the morning until 7 at night. And I want to show you what 50-pound sandbags look like on a staircase, on a platform.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll show it to you.
I just can't visualize that on a
It's
stair.
a mess. They don't stack well. You have to rope them. so that they don't tip over and, it's a mess.
I thought you were gonna tell me that they did it by cable where you,
I got that too, show you that too.
cause I
And
can
already
see
have
that
the
work.
Yeah, I
camera
saw it.
already on. So, yeah, so we show you all three methods. The beauty about it is I'm showing you three methods that I really don't wanna do. You know what I'm saying? So, but they can be done, and at great expense, you give me money, we'll do it. So, why don't you just use that same money that buys no bolts and no paint, why don't you use it towards bolts and paint?
Right.
And by the way, as soon as you refurbish a whole fire escape, you're putting away the load test question for the next 15 to 25 years.
Right.
Otherwise, we're gonna go through this load test silliness every 5 years, because that's what the law says.
Right.
Or as often as you wanna load test it. Because your code doesn't have a 5-year rule, you can walk up to that building every year and make them load test it every year.
Well, and I would think that that would also, you know, subject the building owner to like, if it's a place of assembly,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you're there on an annual basis for the POA,
Yeah,
that it would subject them to that review every 12 months.
right.
Because you're right there, you're gonna go out there and you're gonna look at it and you're gonna,
And if it's suspect in any way, you're
Yeah.
gonna order a load test.
So-
Or other evidence of strength.
so if they do that, then, you know, it's off the table as, you know, every year.
Yeah. So it's really up to you now, and that's why with the triggers, you know, let's be honest about the triggering. The triggers are the easy way around this, is to basically say, listen, instead of me going out looking for this because I took a class, so you're gonna trip over a lot of these yourself anyway now, because you're just gonna be more aware, and you're gonna see more fire escapes than you've ever seen. I'll give you an example, that fire escape, that black fire escape that all those people fell down, there was 5, when I spoke with the owner, the city official in that city goes, oh, yeah, I think, because I called him when I went down, he said, I think I got 5, he goes, and he listed them up, I got one on the factory, one on this other thing, and, you know, and he listed 5 that he was aware of, the city officials. I said, you got more than that? He goes, no, I know all my buildings. I said, okay.
Yeah,
I
right.
said, you don't mind if I go down Main Street and just sort of take pictures for you of fire escapes, residential, commercial, institutional? He goes, sure, go ahead. I stopped at 80, just on Main Street.
Yeah,
Because it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't want to see them. So you will look at a building,
yeah,
and you'll look at this forest, you cannot see the tree. But now, what you're gonna be, what you just learned from this is that you're gonna be walking, and you're gonna be seeing the tree in the forest. So you're basically, so this is fire escapes are an oak tree in a forest of pine.
yeah.
And you used to look at down there, and you just would just look at this forest and say, but now that you know what an oak tree looks like, and how different it looks like from any other pine, you'll just be constantly going, that's the second, you're gonna be seeing stuff that will just blow your mind, you're like, what? Not including parking towers, guys, you know how many parking towers have the hidden fire escape system in those? Because
What do
the
you mean,
windows are
parking?
open, so that they don't have to have sprinklers, and, you know what I'm saying?
What's a
So
parking
all-
Garage.
Parking garage, you mean?
Parking garage.
Oh,
They
yeah,
all have these stairs,
They
yeah,
get,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
all usually cement,
yeah,
pan, stairs, steel construction. But all the windows are open, so it snows into them. And the way that the maintenance guys take care of those staircases on those parking towers, they throw salt on it. That's all they do. They just go out there, shovel a little bit, and just throw, they just keep melting it. So they're throwing salty water.
yeah.
And now, just in Richmond 2 days ago, they had a woman that fell 3 stories through the staircase.
So tell me, how do you do a staircase that's made out of concrete?
How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, how can, you can't beef it up, you,
Enclose
No, how do you fix it?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, usually,
it, enclose it.
it gets taken out, and then a new set of stairs gets put in metal.
Oh.
Then the pans that basically hold the stair is cement for a reason, because, you know, shovels can get on them. They don't freeze as quickly as a diamond plate stair, but you can have a combination of various ones, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, diamond plate is what you want to recommend for those, but depending on the weather conditions, whether the freeze and slip and stuff issues, cement tends to be what some of them like to use, but you can actually put on a cement pan stair, you can put the rubber, you know, the 1/4-inch rubber raised circle,
Yep.
non-slip pad things, you know, that are non-combustible.
But I mean, as far as repairing it, it's mostly taken
Oh, no,
out.
just take it out.
Yeah,
Because once, rust grows to 5 times its size, so a quarter inch becomes 1 inch of rust.
right.
And that's where you get your rust jacking. When things rust jack and bricks open apart, water now gets into those cracks, causing ice jacking. So there's rust jacking that splits it, ice jacking that continues, So between the two, 24/7, 365 days a week,
Right.
that's what it's doing. So, yeah, well, we'll show all three types of load testing. And it's another thing, I've done these 6-hour classes down in New Jersey, but the first state that I taught the entire state of New Jersey. We taught the 6-hour class, but isn't it amazing that you can talk for 6 hours about something as simple as a fire escape?
Yes.
I would have to bring in some dancing and some girls to come through here, because after a while you run out of, but there's still quite a bit to talk about, because you just want to hear how they're built. You want to understand them a little bit more, so that they're not foreign to you. And like I told everybody, everything you're learning today, you already knew. I'm just reminding you that you already know this. Because a lot of times, this information, these codes have been here. I didn't bring them to you, they were already there. These connections and these networks that you guys have between departments, it's already there. So let's start on that as one of my notes. Health, right? The sleeping giants of our industry, right? Because the health, and you mentioned the tie-in, is money. The health department basically shuts off the purse strings. So a lot of times, you guys walk into any building situation, and the building is an unsafe structure, right? You guys bring in the health department to a residential situation or whatever, and it's an unsafe situation, what's the health department gonna do for you? Right? If there's any Section 8, if there's any housing, if there's any state involvement with elderly, if there's anything, the health department steps in, and they cause a lot more turmoil, in a lot of the situations. And a lot of times, institutions, you get them moving first. A lot of times, subsidized anything, you get them moving second. Downtowns, that's what you move third, because there's a lot of income just in the downtown, and they want to keep those things income activities going. And then it'll filter out to the residential market. You jump on the residential market first, you're gonna piss off a lot of people. But, you know what I'm saying? There's plenty of people out there collecting millions of dollars and not putting a dime of it back. Unless there's a gun. And a lot of times the gun starts with the health department. The second gun comes from the housing division. The third gun comes in usually from the building department. The fourth gun comes in a lot of times from the fire department, and so on and so forth. So all you have to do is just build this network, so you're not changing your job, checklist. So let's as we start on this part here, let me see if this thing's even working. Just a quick recap. Just a quick recap of what some of you are going to do when you go back to your cities. Just gotta find my little clicker button. There it is. So what are some of these automatic triggers that you're going to go back to your city and start on slowly? Well, name me one thing that needs to be attached to some standard activity you do every year at every one of these buildings. For example,
Tag.
a building inspection every year, right? You're gonna ask for a copy of fire escape affidavit to prove that there's always 2 means of egress. That's all you're doing, right? So no matter what you're doing, you just say, hey, I just need to verify you have 2 means of egress here. You do? Yeah. Inside, do you need one of these certificates? No. Inside, outside, do you need one of these certificates?
Yep.
For this building inspection? So just add that to the checklist. So it's, until the new forms come out, you can handwrite them in at the very bottom. It's just add another box handwrite it in and saying certificate during the yearly inspections. What's another inspection that you do that you think you could basically tie in this checklist?
Health inspection.
Health inspection, you wanna add a box that says get a copy. That's to prove you have 2 means of egress. What's another one? Section 8 housing, they do that already in Boston. You can't, you need that, they do it yearly. For Section 8 housing, you need to have a certificate on file that your farscape has been, that your farscape is certified. Otherwise, Section 8 housing, you can't get, they'll hold your checks. So what else? What's another one? You're starting the permit process. You guys will decide whether or not it really stops the permit process or it just basically use that as a trigger. But whether you're opening one or closing one or both, without it, you can't close that permit. So permits now are gonna have a trigger, a little checkbox that says, add this as one of the things we need.
Occupancy, place of assembly?
Occupancy, so every occupancy always comes with a confirmation of two sites, right? What else? Sprinkler systems, right? What comes with that guy's, that company's certification?
How about liquor license?
Oh.
How about the liquor license?
Okay, so tell me why liquor license.
It's a place of assembly typically, or it's high traffic area.
Can't kill the drunks, you're right. So we're gonna get two, again, and I'm just going over this, which is correct, it's like everything that's already part of your normal checklist activities that you're doing, so you're not changing anything you're doing, and we're just confirming that you have. Are you ordering an inspection? Are you ordering a certification of your fire escape? When you ask for a copy of something? That means they've already done it, right?
Right.
Verify.
So everything you're doing here has not changed anything you already do, so you're not changing anything, but you're just confirming that they have 2 means. Can you legally rent anything that doesn't have 2 means of egress? Do you guys have that up here? Every time somebody changes rental, you have to have a rental reinspection, rental program? It's happening, but, got it? So, I don't know, I'm just throwing that in. So permits, what else? How about when I inspect those things?
Fire alarm?
Does it need to, do I need a proof?
Yep.
They do those
How about-
monthly for insurance.
Okay, how about for the sprinklers?
Yearly
My yearly
fire
extinguisher inspection, what do I need with that? So now who are you bringing into this? You know who you're bringing in? You're bringing in a silent army. The fire protection industry is coming in and doing what for you? Getting the word out and saying what? They'll take my certification for your sprinkler, but you know what they're asking me to bring along with it now? So who's getting the word to the owner? Fire protection companies, they're getting the word out that says, hey, you know what they want now? They want a copy of your certification. Do you have one? No? Well, they said I can just staple a blank piece of paper to the back, because then, once it gets there, so I still submit, so nothing has changed. But when they get there and they see my sprinkler sign off, and behind there's a blank piece of paper, you know what they do?
Uh-oh.
They accept the sprinkler thing, they put it in file, say, thank you very much, and they go, and they send you off, what, to cure in 30 days? A request for
Load test.
certification.
Certification, verification.
Got it? What else we have here that you guys can tie in as a trigger so that it's on everybody's list? How about pre-plans? Can anything be done with pre-plans? Okay, and what else can be done? What else do you do at a building? And you just hit one that nobody would ever think, the liquor store. But what else happens in a building that may want to trigger something like that? Concert halls,
You have to have your elevators inspected every, 3 to 5 years? You could have it on.
part of your elevator inspections. What must you attach to it? Because what's the first thing that you kill when there's a fire in your building? The elevator. So what's that mean? So now they're certifying the elevator through load testing, by the way. That's how elevators get done,
Right.
It's a load test with physical plates, right? And what must that guy, the elevator guy, now give you on the day of a fire? You know what I'm saying? So what must he prove? As not that he's proved. What does he bring when he submits his elevator test back to you?
Check off whether or not there was 2 means of egress.
Certified means of egress. So there's another guy brought into the equation, because he's the first one that gets knocked out. His perfectly good fire escape is only to be used by who?
Nobody.
Fire department, right? But everybody else gets to use the,
Stairs.
so we now need to confirm, so there's a tie-in to those guys. What else? What else we got? Anybody else have, so we've covered health, we've covered housing, what else occurs out there that, you know, proves? Oh, I was talking about real estate, I was talking with you about real estate and rental. Does anybody know that in real estate, I get these calls quite often. Hi, I just bought this house a year ago, 2 years ago. And the city official just came by to basically check my building out, and he says that I don't have a second means of egress out of my third floor. And he's giving me a violation. And now I got a $30,000 problem that I gotta put a new fire escape up to the third floor. And this is what I told him. I said, you know what? Listen, there's a good and a bad here. Let's start off with the bad. The bad is you're gonna need a $30,000 fire escape, and somebody's gonna pay for it. And it's gonna be you. The good is somebody's gonna give you all that money back. Okay? Let me explain why. Can I legally rent anything that doesn't have two means of egress?
No,
Can I sell anything that doesn't have two means of egress?
no.
Yes.
So, I mean, that needed a two means of egress requirement.
You can sell it.
Can't sell it, now without that being disclosed. So I'm selling it as a fully functional, three-family house with two means of egress, and all of a sudden, 2 years later, you guys do your inspection, and you just knocked out my third floor, which I only had one means of egress. Could that have sold 2 years ago? So that was an illegal transaction. So I tell all my people who call me, who are now forced into this $30,000 fire escape, my first question is, do you like your building? Well, I'm kind of upside down. I'm either I like it or I'm upside down. I bought in high, and because you can give it back. They're like, what do you mean? Because you participated in a transaction that was illegal to occur 2 years ago. So I need you to make a couple of phone calls. You need to call your real estate agent that you paid a commission and is licensed to know what to do, and your closing attorney. And you need to call their real estate agent and their closing attorney.
And home inspector.
And the home inspector, which, by the way, if they didn't disclaim that at the bottom, everybody has what's called errors and omissions insurance, supposedly. But most of the higher end people will have it. And all you do is you call up and you say, hey, I need your errors and omissions insurance. They're like, why? And as I was telling, what's your first name? Charlie, I was telling Charlie, what you do is you actually you call your attorney and say, so you're not part of this group, you make your attorney for free sue everybody else and get you your $30,000 plus dollars. Because if not, you can negate the whole transaction, because you've been actually working with a piece of property that the tenants can actually get their money back. If they've been living there for 2 years and you illegally rented them a third floor apartment with no second means of egress, they can get back all their money. Because they entered into a contract with you that you were not legally able to enter into. And you can also negate the sale. Got it? So, fire escapes, we get these calls all the time when the insurance company finally comes around and makes you aware you don't have a second means of egress out of your third floor. So, these people who have just had this happen to them, they can go back to the sale, either negate the whole sale and just get out of the whole contract completely, or in the suing process, through errors and omissions, they're gonna get their money back.
If
They
it's
pay
been 2 years, how do they handle what they've already paid? How's that taken care of?
the errors and omissions insurance. You're not going back for anybody's money, you're going through the insurance companies. Errors and omissions is basically saying, okay, everybody screwed up, and if you can call it fraud, intentional fraud, knowingly or unknowingly, you're paid to know. 3 times. Okay? So that's what we've been telling anybody that's been sort of caught 2 years later after a sale. We get this also often in people who basically have a fire escape on their building. 2 years later, we get there, it's condemned. And they have a $30,000 problem. We say to them, when did you buy it? 2 years ago. So they're gonna pay for this. I said, how? Because when they closed on the building, they were supposed to give you what? Certifications on everything, right? And this is how the transaction should have gone. Hi, I'm selling you this building for $500,000, but by the way, my fire escape needs 30 grand of work. But you're gonna give me $500,000 anyway. See, that's disclaimed, that's known. as opposed to, here's $500,000, I'm not gonna tell you about the fire escape, I'll get you in a second, and you also, you found out later, they own that. All the real estate agents, all the lawyers, everybody owns that. It's like me going into a building and all of a sudden I start taking down some sheetrock and there's all burnt beams. The owner knew that. And he sold it to me, I don't care how many years later I find out. They basically hid that from me. Question?
Is that only in Massachusetts,
For what?
what you're talking about? Because
Okay.
Are you talking about single family, or are you just talking about rental property?
As far as you're not, no right,
This
Disclosure.
second means of egress.
the right to know? Well, again, can I rent anything that the law requires 2 means of egress? Will you allow
Oh,
me
you're
to rent?
talking about renting, not just if it's someone's personal home.
Even a personal home needs 2 means of egress.
So you're talking about everything, single
Yeah.
family and whether it's
Everything that
rental or
needs
not.
2 means of egress,
Yeah,
everything that needs 2 means of egress. So if I live on the first floor and I have my 2 means of egress, and I'm renting the second floor and there's only one stair going upstairs, right? And I converted it to a 2-family, I pay taxes as a 2-family, I've just never put a staircase. There used to be a staircase, but I took it out. So that thing has been renting. It's not that they are allowed to do that, nobody knew it was happening.
right.
But the tenant doesn't care, because now the tenant that loves that neighborhood, the kids go to that school right there, is gonna get uprooted and sent somewhere else. You don't think he's got some financial bite back? He's gonna say, dude, when I came here, you basically told me this was a legit place for me to rent. That's why, because my kids go to the school right here. Now you tell me it's not a legitimate place? Give me back my money. So you can't rent, if you can't enter into a contract, both buying it or renting it, you have some due course. Got it? So we get these calls all the time. And it's not uncommon for me to get somebody that just bought a building and the fire escape's a piece of crap. And I just send them back down the legal trail. I said, it could take you 1 to 3 years to get, but you'll get all your money back. And more if you can prove that these people knew it. Got it? And like the law says, negligence of the law is no excuse. You were supposed to know, so even if you say, I didn't know, then you still owe me. So that's where it comes. So we get clients like that all the time, that whenever they get sold an illegal property that doesn't have a third means of egress, a second means of egress on the 3rd floor, for example, or they got a junk fire escape that was crap and they just threw a paint job on it, they have, because you can prove up to 25 years. Got it? So, let's take a look at this one. Actually, I'm gonna go back here. See this one? So we took this fire escape that was 4 feet across. It was on a Catholic school, rented by a French school that did kindergarten to 8th grade. And this fire escape, which came from the 2nd floor to the recess, oh, beautiful recess yard, with that rubber foamy thing for the kids, the rich kids that, $26,000 a semester, blah, 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 whatever, speak French. And so this rotten piece of stair, basically, who do you think called me to change it out? Was it the fire official who did his yearly exam? The building official that did his yearly exam? The insurance company that did its yearly exam? The principal of the school?
The PTA.
Was it the facilities guy who says, dude, this thing is a piece of crap, you gotta change this out? No, actually, nobody got hurt on this. That should have been, he goes, this is gonna hurt one of these $26,000 kids, and then we're gonna have a bigger problem. So the facilities guy made me change that. And he gave me a window from the 17th of December through till January 3.
Yep. School vacation.
He goes, that's all you got. Get in it. So this thing was about 4 feet wide. And so what I did is, when I got there, I said, no, this is impossible. So I actually sliced a piece of it that went into the ground, sliced a piece at the top so I can use it to bring and show. I didn't bring it today, sorry. But what I did to it is I modified it and I did everything that you illegally can't do anymore. I welded it and I did everything possible to show you what people have been doing. And then if you throw paint and caulking over it, you'll never see it. It's a smoke and mirrors tour, right? This is buried in the ground,
Yep.
right? So whenever you have a tread that's falling and you can't get underneath it anymore, what you do is you weld it from the top. So this is the quick fix. Weld a piece of bracket, angle up there, and then you weld individually.
Yep.
So you don't support it from underneath, you support it from above. Got it? Can I weld? And this one already had one that was there, see, and I just welded that. See, full of rust. Do I take the rust out? So just welded here, and so I have a master's degree in reverse stupidity. Do I know all the wrong ways to do it? So here's the piece. So underneath, what I did is, when I find rust and bolts gone, I just weld the nose. See all the rust in there? Look at that. So this is a trick. You just weld the nose and collect your money. Look at that, the nuts are gone. You can't even see them anymore. Got it? And every now and then, take a square bar. So forget a piece of angle. Take a square bar and just weld the square bar underneath here and tack weld it to the top. Oh, by the way, did I pull a fire permit when I was doing this on a building that's 100 years old?
Oh, you should have.
Did I have a fully functioning
No.
extinguisher nearby?
Yeah, right, a competent person with a fire watch guy.
Did I have a garden hose anywhere? Did I have at least some extra large Coca-Cola cups from McDonald's that I can throw the remaining ice on the situation to help you guys out?
Just your buddy holding his and your beer.
So this is typical, so you're gonna go through all these fire escapes and all the noses are welded. But if the rust is still growing inside, what to do to a weld? Rips it, right? So I'm gonna talk about that. So here's what she looks like. She used to be 4 feet across, so I shrunk her down, and I put a piece of flat in the middle to show. And what about all the paint? Any paint on this thing?
Yeah.
You know why there's no paint on it? Because it was full of lead. And in a schoolyard full of kids, like a salt lick out there for the deer, what the kids have? A lead lick, because lead tastes like
Candy.
candy. And you don't even have to eat it, because you can just rub yourself all over, because it goes right into the yard. You can play Ring Around the Rosie, you can get underneath and collect the dust, you can put your hands on it, and then your hands do what?
Oh,
Eat your bananas and your hands, and you eat and wipe it on your friends' coats and stuff. And if anybody's taking a renovator class, right, one of the things they talk about the renovator class, kids ain't eating chips and getting sick. You know what they were doing? It was from the dad coming home, sitting on a chair, and within a 5-foot circle of the chair and on the rug, the dad had all the dust because he worked in construction, he worked in the shipyard,
Yep.
and all the lead was in that sofa, was in that rug, and the little kids crawling on their hands and knees, you know, hands to mouth and food. That's where lead poisoning came. Yeah, some kids chewed on a chip here and there, but that's not what caused it. Just being exposed to it, and then you bring it home, because you're supposed to, as the renovators tell you, wash your clothes separately now from your kids, from the regular line. There's all these things. We didn't know that. You know how many houses I demoed inside, me and my dad, and, you know what I mean? So,
Better yet, when you were fishing, how many times did you bite your sinkers onto your line? End up swallowing one because,
yeah. So here's the before and after. So this is on the 17th of December, and that's on the 3rd of January. And now she doesn't come straight into the yard, she goes to the right there, and then along the wall down the back. 42-inch rails. Okay? So these things happen all the time. Many of your institutions, many of your old schools, prep schools, you know what they're gonna have all over their old buildings that are 100 years old? So, fire escapes rot from where? You get anything near the ocean, what happens to them?
Picks up the pace.
Picks up the pace. You get a 1/2 inch of rust. You walk up a stair and the tread gives way on you. That's why you're never gonna walk on a fire escape anymore. You walk up a fire escape and your foot goes through that tread, how do you fall? You fall through and back. What happens to your knee? No, I mean, well, you'll either break or you sprain yourself because you're falling in the right direction. You're going down a set of stairs and your foot goes through and your motion is forward. How do you bend your knee? Oh, break it. In the wrong direction. And then, what's that do for your career? Done. Got it? since you guys are not gonna be walking around with hammers, doing this every time you walk the fire escape, don't walk fire escapes anymore. Okay, so you can visually see a fire escape that's rusty, it's suspect, you wanna get on it? Or do you have enough to write a violation?
Got enough to write.
Right? Fire escapes must be structure sound, must be kept painted, so as soon as you see it's not painted, you need to see that it's not structure sound? You just write a violation based on paint, because it's supposed to be maintained at all times, so you're writing a scrape and paint violation, but do you write scrape and paint? What do you write? Inspect,
Inspect,
repair it,
and test it.
test it. And they're gonna call you back and say, what do these three things mean, and what do you send them? You know, the procedures and guidelines, which could be on your website, or you can fax it to them, right? Or they can come by and pick one up that's on the counter, and what's it say? Because one of the reasons why you didn't write a lot of violations on these, because you didn't know how to cure it. Do you know how to cure it? And the fire escape is mothballed. What's the answer? Scaffolding. That'll buy you how much time?
Up to you.
Up to you, but usually 30 days, right? And if the other side of the equation is doing absolutely nothing and starting to threaten you with legal action, what do?
Shut them down.
Shut it down. Now you shut it down. Now you pull out load tests, you pull out everything you got, and you pull out your 5 buddies. Rutgers University, the only known fireman's fire escape pole system. I've never seen one like this and this is on an actual building at Rutgers.
Cool.
Should be on a frat house, right? Left side for the girls, right side for the boys. It's a one-way system.
That's a quick escape.
Crazy, but you know how long you have to train to properly hold the slide pole correctly without falling down? And I think a lot of insurances have stopped the pole slide because of the liability associated with the pole slide, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, they don't like it.
They don't like it, they've stopped it, right? So, anybody ever see a slidescape?
Oh,
You
yep.
have? Where, what city?
I saw, no, I didn't actually see it first, but
Gettysburg.
I've seen them in books.
Okay. Anybody seen a slidescape in New Hampshire?
Saw it now. Got an elementary school.
At an elementary school. We have a 12-story one in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And I have a copy of it so we can have some giggles about it, okay?
Okay. Cool.
All right. So, this is that fire again down in Bridgeport. 50 people went back into the building after, this was not a firefight, this was a fire rescue right at the beginning. Did you guys see the little girl there? And why is she stuck there?
Can't jump down.
Because the ladders didn't come down. The ladder's supposed to go all the way to grade. So when they got there, remember the guy said that everybody was stuck on fire escapes, meaning none of the ladders were working. 6 months later, when I was called to this very site, and I looked at every one of these fire escapes, everyone was condemned 6 months after this fire. And you know what happened to them?
Yeah,
I don't know. Because when I told them of the 6 condemned fire escapes, and I called the fire department told them about the 6 condemned fire escapes, you know what they said to me?
Get out of here.
Get to know.
Got it? So sometimes they don't want, it's gonna happen, you guys are gonna have some very powerful knowledge today, and a lot of people don't wanna hear you. You don't think they wanna talk to me, they're gonna wanna talk to you. Because you're basically gonna be turning over certain things that everybody has left. It's the bastard child of egress. It's the homeless person that lives behind the alleyway that everybody says doesn't exist, but everybody sees them there that wants to see them. So fire escapes has got the same attention. Okay? Steve, what time do you want to let everybody out? Is it 2:30, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock? Time?
That's your show.
Let's see, guys. You only got five credits, 5 or 6 credits?
I think it's 6 on the thing.
6 credits, all right. All right. It's 1:30, let's say 3:30?
Sure.
2:30,
That's good.
3 o'clock?
He wanted to go to 4, right? Today was
That's
to
what
4?
we put as 4, but it's
Okay, so
really-
about 3 o'clock?
it's up to your material, so if you have enough till.
Dude, I'm ex-karaoke, I can sit here and sing, but look, the greatest thing is usually you got a lot of people sleeping in these classes. Just 2 days ago, we were in Richmond, Virginia, and it was funny because we had a class that started off small, and they actually opened up 2 rooms because so many people showed up. It was about 80, 90 people.
80 people.
And I taught in Jersey City, not Jersey, but in the state of Jersey, I've had 200 people in the class.
A lot of snoring.
Well, you think, but what happens is a lot of them come up to me at the end and they thank you because a lot of times they snore because it's something they already know and you're sort of just bringing in a little bit of information to them to basically top off what they already know. A lot of times these classes is like, oh my God, I knew none of this. It was even underneath my feet. So that's what happens on a lot of these. So this is the case, you know, a lot of little kids. They don't know what's going on, and that's the last person you're gonna have. So imagine that being your daughter, your son, 8 years old, and somebody below saying, jump, 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 12 to 14 feet. Can you imagine the trauma?
But right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging out the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
Well, about 50 people were displaced inside this building.
All those 3 buildings, I looked at all the fire escapes, they're all in
Everybody
them.
will be allowed to go back in, except the one unit where the fire was in. They said, that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
Right? Everybody, back in the building. We only lost 1 apartment. We're cool. Everything's good. Everybody back. And it was this that happened down in Boston in 1973, sorry. And this happened in Philadelphia. Same scenario, 4 stories, 3 people out having a smoke. You know what I'm saying? So here's the strangest thing is, he's waiting for the ladder to come along because he grabbed the ladder with 1 hand. Because at that instantaneous part when you look at the photographs on the back of your thing, it shows her trying to grab his legs. And she fell away. The fire escape fell into the 3rd floor. And then the little girl fell along with her as all the, basically the domino effect. And then when she hit the ground, the guy, the photographer for Herald, caught that famous shot that won him a Pulitzer Prize, but it's not how you want to get a Pulitzer Prize, you know. With a camera that caught the, just before the death. But this fire escape also pulled away from the building. The lawyer in the Philadelphia case, you know what he said that was key? A properly maintained fire escape will never fall. So, this fire escape didn't fall for any other reason other than lack of maintenance. Because if it was properly fabricated, properly installed, and properly maintained, it will never fall. It can't. It can never fall. So what happened? As soon as you add lack of maintenance, now it's going to fall. Suspect.
Negligent.
Had they load tested this a year before, you think they would have found the defect?
Yeah.
The Philadelphia case, had they load tested it a month or a year before, would they have found that defect? Seeing what I showed you in photographs, all that blown out cement, would I have load tested that fire escape?
No.
So proper inspection, right? And you guys always remember, your ladder trucks are out of service as soon as something is suspect. Bent, something could have happened to it, it's automatic. Until the testing comes in and proves otherwise, an entire truck is out of service. Yet you guys carry a mobile fire escape system to a building. Yet the permanent fire escape system that's on the building, you guys are letting it go. But that's all you got. Going back into the buildings, this is the unknown that we've answered. With $50 or $500, can we fix this?
Yes.
Right? So pick one, 50 or 500, what's better for the client? Because sometimes you open this up and there's bigger problems behind you. What's the bigger problem? Wall issues. Got it? So some of these older buildings have bigger problems than anybody wants when you start opening, because you actually, when you start opening the structure, you're weakening the structure even more. So like, again, let sleeping dogs lie. Here's another shot of us looking at another building where the same thing occurred. And a lot of times, you're gonna get that bulge. You ever see look at a building, there's a bubble, there's a belly?
Yeah.
Can I load test that fire escape? Why?
It's their weakness.
Right. I'll fix my fire escape 100%, and you get that there's a bubble, there's a belly on the wall. You're still gonna disallow the load test, or you're gonna say, no, I need a load test? Or, the fire escape's been fully refurbished, new tie-ins into the building, and I'm tying into a pregnant belly. What are you guys gonna do? Order a load test, right? That forces what? Because when I get that, I'm gonna load test this pregnant belly, what do I say? Will I load test it? Will I load test a pregnant belly, a bulging belly? Even though the fire escape was pristine and refurbished? So dude, you got other issues here. You need a wall evaluation. So that triggers, I get triggered out because I won't load test, because I got evidence that says, this thing is bulged out. So now a structural engineer does what? A wall evaluation. He'll do testing, he'll verify, and he'll say, oh my God. And what causes bulges on a wall?
Rust or water jet?
Ice jacking. Ice jacking is what pushes those things out. And instead of people fixing it, they just re-cement it with the belly. But it's usually a parapet wall, feeding water, bulging, ice jacking, pushing the veneer out. That's what happened here. This is all bulged. On this job that I looked in New York, near the water, all the floors were bulging. So when they started exposing it, so now, here's the problem. Look at all this rot. Look at all that rot, right? So should we go in and get the whole veneer off the face of the building and rebuild the wall? Or let sleeping dogs lie, lock this up, and put in new through bolts into the building? So they're gonna take care of the veneer bulge and basically verify the interior wall, right? And then we just put in new plates and leave this alone, because there's nothing I can do other than take all that steel out of a building. This is what a verification process does. This is actually us in California. That's a 3/4 ham drill. I have to drill 2, 3, 4 times, but 2 to 3 to get that big of an opening so I can have a hole like that, so I can throw my snake down to verify the interior, right, of the connection, right? Or can I just take that, this and drill a hole about 6 inches over there? Same hole, drill it over there, make sure that my connection into the building is closed and sealed, and then make a mechanical connection back to this clamp, back to this angle. So now my new 3/8 through bolt over here is the master, and this connection over here is the slave. I'm at 200% of what the requirement of the law is. And have I satisfied you with other evidence of strength? Because this is what I see when I look down that hole. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. That's me looking down that hole. What am I looking at? Even with the help of a digital camera and I stick it in there, what am I looking at? Am I really getting a true picture of everything, or to guess? So why verify these things when you can just duplicate them? But some cases, it's very easy to verify. You can clearly see it on the inside, there's no rust. You can clearly see it on the outside, there's no rust, and you can clearly see the shaft, no rust. But every now and then you get one of these, that there's some damage where you can clearly see outside, inside, that everything is cool. What do? Cement it up. Do what? Verify to you that what? The connection is through, it's verifiable. Got it? If I can't, leave this one alone and do what? Give you another one. This is that one that I was talking about. So the hysterical committee. You get a building that the hysterical committee says you can't take that fire escape down. And they've already put 2 means of egress on the inside. Take the staircases out. And you have what's called Romeo and Juliet balconies. So now people cannot, by mistake, use the fire escape to get down. They can only use it, and that's what this guy did. He had 10 stories. We did a load test. Now, even though we refurbished the entire structure, all the bolts, the owner still wanted a load test. And what we did is, this is one where you get down here, you use the weight of the truck with a cable that goes through the whole thing, all the way to the very top. There's an angle that goes across here, so when you're pulling down on this, and we're pulling 3,000 pounds using the system here, you take measurements before, during, and after, right? So there's the load test, measurements, time, laptops, before, during, and after. Takes a whole day, or 2 days, or 3 days. Thousands of dollars. Lifting the ass of a 7,000 pound truck, just to get 3,000 pounds to register on the load cell. And then you watch that for 1 hour. Then you can proceed to the next one. How long does that take? If you don't have the luxury of pulling cables, what do you have? 50-pound sandbags, 7 men, carrying them up and down, putting 2,000 pounds upstairs, and then you slowly drag bags down, including the staircases. And if you don't be careful, those bags tilt over and do what? And it looks something like this. See all these guys? All right, measurements before, during, and after.
So now we're loading onto a stair, and we're doing a
Many men.
concentrated load of every other tread, 200 pounds.
Hey, Tom, he's about started. You want
Plus
us
the
to know that the
men's weight.
staircase is starting, what time? You gotta time it so you know which one's 40% of the load before you do 100% of the load. Checklist.
Just keep doing it.
Don't knock the bag over, because it'll domino effect, so you have to start tying all these bags down to the treads. You can only do every other tread, because if you try to load every tread, you can't, because there's no room for the bags. These treads are only 8 inches wide, the bags are 12 to 14 inches wide. Everybody's tired.
Tom, you gonna have another camera for me?
And you gotta bring this there, you start at 7 in the morning loading your truck at your shop, dragging it to the site, and this site didn't have any place to have a cherry picker, because usually you have to use a cherry picker to put these bags into the thing so that at least you're sick. So you know why I did that? So I can bring it here, to show you the silliness of load testing. Can it be done? Sure. Now, plenty of missing pieces on fire escapes. Right? This one I couldn't get through. This one only had a 12-inch. So some fire escapes are built wrong back when, but they're sometimes grandfathered in. Doesn't mean that you can't make it. If it's a life safety issue, do I have to retrofit it today? Because even though it was grandfathered in, you can also say, yeah, but even though they allowed that back then, today it's a life safety issue, someone's gonna fall. There's no rail here. What? There's no rail here.
Right.
You have to sort of figure this out during the smoke mode, you know what to do here. Is that single action requiring no special knowledge? Here's the case that I was an expert witness. Fireman. He fell. He was gonna go vent that window up there. There was a woman and a child up there. When he went up these set of stairs, he fell through 2 to 3 steps right there, fell down over here, came back up, vented, grabbed the woman, brought her down. When he was 27 years old, by the time the adrenaline wore off, he had shattered his spine and done.
Oh.
Right? Now, what makes this case important is that this would normally be an accident related to work-related injury, which means what kind of money?
Workman's comp.
3/4 of your full check for the rest of your life, and you're a cripple. That's a lottery ticket or not? Is that a lottery ticket for anybody?
No.
Right? So what made this special is that this guy sued the owner directly for negligence.
Yeah.
He said, this wasn't a work-related injury. I got hurt because you left this hand grenade here for me. And in the course of me doing my job, I didn't get hurt during something related to the actual fire. I got hurt because you never took care of your fire escape. So I got hurt. But had this been a normally certified fire escape, I would never get hurt. But because you didn't do your job, so we brought in a metallurgist, and the metallurgist proved, and this is where we got a lot of our information, where fire escapes rot from the inside out. Isn't that what you want me to do today, is prove that fire escapes rot from the inside out? Well, I am not gonna prove it. The metallurgist had to prove it in this case, so that once we prove this case, and they won it, they settled it out of court, we proved that the owner had not done anything on this fire escape for 25 years. Or more. By the way, when I went there, 2 years later, when I finally got dragged into this, the fire escape was in a state of collapse. When I got there, this is what I found. So, let's talk about how fire escapes are built. Okay? Every piece of the fire escape is made from a 20-foot piece of steel. Comes painted or unpainted.
Unpainted.
So every piece, railings, treads, and gratings and supports, comes from a 20-foot piece that people cut, and they make these smaller pieces, and then they put it all together with bolts and nuts and rivets. So I'm gonna make a tread for you. I'm gonna take pieces of flat, I'm gonna cut it, I'm gonna join two pieces of flat together, put a hole in the middle, put a rivet or a bolt together. When I put that bolt or that rivet together, do I paint between the two? Do I put two pieces of steel together that are primed? I drill and prime and then bolt, or do I just take two raw pieces of steel, pop a hole in it, pop a rivet in it, and leave it raw until it gets painted?
Depends on what you're paying for.
Right, so leave it raw until it gets painted. So there I am now, I got this piece of steel, and then once I've got this tread painted, I then prime it, and then I paint it. When I'm priming it, do I open up all the joints and I get primer inside the joints?
No.
So I really encapsulate it, don't I? So by encapsulating a tread, a support, I'm basically stopping one of the things that rust needs. Rust needs two things to grow: oxygen and moisture, right? So the steel have moisture already. So if you take a piece of copper tubing and you're about to solder it, and you start heating it up, what happens? What do you see on the copper tubing? Yeah, it starts to sweat, and it looks like it gets dry because of the heat. You do that same thing to a piece of steel, it looks like it's wet and it starts drying. So it already has the moisture it needs to grow, right? Rust. So what's the only thing it needs? Oxygen. So why do you paint it? To stop oxygen from getting to the wet piece of steel. Got it? With the two pieces that are tied together like this, that I put a bolt between the two, is it wet or dry?
Wet.
It's wet, right? Steel wet. Not wet, moisture wet, but steel wet, right? So now I've sealed it. Now, here's what happens every day on every fire escape in the United States. When it heats up, what happens?
Expands.
When it cools down and shrinks, what's it do?
Same thing,
As soon as it moves, what happens to the seal of my paint?
Cracks.
If that paint ain't polyurethane or something that has a little bit of flex to it, and it's just good old stiff paint from the 1930s, what's it do?
Cracks.
Cracks. Letting in what we need?
Oxygen.
Oxygen, where we got moisture. But it'll let in more moisture when it rains. We're coming through that. But what it really, really needs is oxygen. And now the oxygen goes into and tries to get a foothold somewhere. And the foothold is either where there's paint or where there's no paint. Where is there no paint?
Bolt hole.
In between, got it? So here we have the beginning of a tread, and in between these two connections, what do we have? Rust trying to get in. Every 3 to 5 years, or every 5 to 7 years, you're supposed to be scraping that away and repainting it. So in 1911, did you do that? So you didn't do that on this side, and by the way, this side acts totally different than the other side. One side gets sun, the other side doesn't get sun. One side gets a leaf, the other one side doesn't get a leaf. One side's on the back side of the building, the other one's on the sunny side of the building. The sun's rays affect the fire escape in one way, that the shady side underneath the willow tree. So what do you get? Everything has an effect on what it does, right? So now this is the first 5 to 10 years, right? You're supposed to scrape and paint. Do you?
No.
This is the second, when you're getting into the 15 to 25 years. It's made a foothold. It's got in here. But it's only a 16th. Got in there, a 16th. But what did it do already? It pushed this steel away from that clip. And what's it do to that little shaft?
Opens it.
On the clip, on the bolt, or in that little rivet?
The rivet.
It stretched it like spaghetti. And what happens when you stretch any bolt? Does it make it suspect?
Weakened it.
Can you fix it, or you have to replace it?
Place it.
Right, so the rivets are all getting stretched, the bolts are all getting stretched, a 16th only, but that's enough for me as an inspector of a fire escape to pass it or fail it. Fail it, right? So now we get into the 25 to 50 year, and depending where it's at, I got a 1/4 inch here, and you've got plenty of fire escape treads that have 1/4 inch. What happens here?
fails.
Well, no, believe it or not, there's still enough shaft there, either a bolt or a rivet, and your clip is still just on it. That's why when you walk up a rusty fire escape with only a 1/4 inch of rust, it hasn't done what? Looks like it's holding. Is it really holding, or is this just an impediment in its way? Right? So all of a sudden, the fireman that got hurt on this fire escape, what did he step on? One that exceeded
Right.
the ability for that little piece to continue holding. So he fell through. So that's why fire escapes rust from the inside out, because once it's done eating the connection, where's it keep eating? The paint next to it. So by the time you get to a fire escape that has all the rust all the paint gone on it, how long has it been?
Years.
This is what I found when I got there 2 years later. Got it? As I'm walking up the fire escape, this is what was happening to the treads underneath my feet. You know the only fire escape part that didn't fail this examination?
The railing.
No, the 3 steps that the guy fell through.
Oh.
Those had all brand new bolts. The rest of it,
Oh, they fixed it.
Original.
Jesus.
that's why they settled this case very quickly.
Yeah, how many digits?
Away from me, they never told us, but he was asking, I think I was in the $10 million range.
Yeah.
See this right across, right behind us on another building, totally unrelated to this? This is one of my shots. So what was gonna happen on the fire escape just behind us? It's another hand grenade.
We're gonna watch it burn.
Okay, what we're gonna talk about right now, we're gonna get into how fire escapes tie into the building. But you know what everybody's getting right now? The lasagna snooze. So everybody take a break, get back here at 2 o'clock, and we'll do the 1 hour stretch and get everybody out of here, but everybody's got that. Okay, so everybody just take a 10-minute break.
Everybody had a fat belly.
Go stretch it out,
Get that right.
grab a cup of coffee, do something.
I did. Lasagna snooze.
They did, or it was floating around here. I think Steve, is Steve the one, probably Steve's got the